Good day, church. It's really good to be with you again to just talk about my sermon last week on the structures of authority and God that God has placed over us. So yesterday I spoke about the fact that sometimes we resist it because there has been abuse and misuse of those authority. And the second reason, I'm just going to touch quickly on it, is sometimes we don't like submitting to that authority over us because of pride. We think we can do it our way. We think we know better or know best. And so sometimes because of that, because of pride, and I just want to touch on that today and move on to the way we can overcome this issue of submission to authority, is pride stops us. We've got to believe that there are those authority structures that if they exercise it in an appropriate way, that they have the authority of God to rule over our lives as well. So pride should or could stop you, and repentance is needed there as well. So how do we resolve the issue of in our struggle with the authority structures? Well, let me give you two things I think that will help you that I mentioned on Sunday. Is resolve, first of all, to honor God by humbling yourself and honoring those that He has placed over you. So there's the one knee you bend towards God, and the other knee, if I can put it like that, you bend towards any authority structure that God has placed over you. And He has put them over you. And God doesn't encourage us to submit to them and to listen to them necessarily because they're worthy of respect always. Because sometimes they're not. And sometimes there's this thing in us that really, it's like builds up and the aggression comes towards an organization or a government that continuously do things that you think is just not right. Well, God said regardless of that, we've got to respect and submit ourselves to them, because the root of their governance is really in God and in His Word. So God has established them. God has established these political leaders. I was asked the question, so did God establish Hitler and Stalin and all those that we know that really abuse people? That's such a difficult issue to challenge. But sometimes God uses even governments, leaders that are harsh and ungodly to accomplish His purposes in a nation. And it sounds very harsh, but God has done that in the past, and I believe in the present as well. So we need to resolve, first of all, that I will do it God's way. I will restructure my life according to God's way, submit to the authority of God, submit to the authority that He has given and put over me. I think the second thing that helps a lot is to actually speak out trust in God. That what He has placed over me, He has placed over me for good. Now, when it doesn't go well, then it's very difficult to accept that. But we speak our trust in God, that what He has placed over me, I will honor it and I will respect it because He has instituted it in my life for my benefit. Here's the reality. My friend, if we rebel against God's authority, the structures, we're actually rebelling against God. So we've got to constantly deal with that in our lives. Let's resolve, therefore, to live a life that is willing to bend the knee. Bend the knee, by that I mean in submission to God and the structures that God has placed over each one of us. This coming week, I'm going to address the structures that God has placed in the church that is for our benefit as well. So I pray that God will help us, you and me, to submit ourselves and to restructure our lives accordingly. May God bless you and give you an awesome day. Father, thank you that we are your sons and daughters, that you know what is best for us. And even when things don't really go our way, that in the end, in all things you work for good for those who love you and called according to your purposes. And we trust you that we will benefit from the structures that you've placed over us because you have placed them there.